The road out of a city is not always a place of departure. Sometimes it is where loss is carried into the open, where what cannot be held any longer is taken beyond the gates. On that road outside Nain, a crowd moved slowly, following a mother who had already lost more than most could endure. Her husband was gone, and now her only son was being carried out for burial. As the account records, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Luke 7:12. What remained of her life was being taken from her, and there was no path forward that she could see. On that same road, another group was approaching the city. Nain was a small town, and death was never hidden. When it entered a household, it drew others in. Neighbors gathered, and mourning became visible to the whole community. The young man being carried out had been his mother's only son. Without him, she was left alone in a way that carried real consequence. There was no one to provide for her, no one to stand in her defense. The loss reached beyond grief and into survival. The procession moved through the gate of the city, the place where daily life passed in and out. Now it marked the boundary between what remained and what was gone. The body was carried on a bier, prepared for burial, the movement steady and final. At that same moment, another group approached. He went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Luke 7:11. Jesus drew near to the gate and saw the procession. He saw the woman at its center. There is no record of her calling out to him. No request was made. The grief was already in motion. When he saw her, the response came first from him. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said unto her, "Weep not." Luke 7:13. The words were spoken before anything had changed. They entered the moment as it was, not after it had been resolved. Then he stepped forward. Jesus moved toward the bier and touched it. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. Luke 7:14. Everything stopped. The act itself broke expectation. Contact with the dead carried consequences under the law, yet he did not hesitate. The moment held still around him. Then he spoke. "Young man, I say unto thee, arise." Luke 7:14. There was no delay, no gradual change. The one who had been carried out as dead sat up and began to speak. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak. And he delivered him to his mother. Luke 7:15. Life returned where death had already taken its place. The son was given back to his mother. The reaction spread through the crowd, and there came a fear on all, and they glorified God. Luke 7:16. What they had witnessed could not be reduced or explained away. It stood in front of them, undeniable. They spoke about it openly, saying that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God hath visited his people. Luke 7:16. The report did not remain in that place, and this rumor of him went forth throughout all Judea and throughout all the region round about. Luke 7:17. What happened at the gate of Nain became known far beyond it. Compassion moved before any request was made. The woman did not call out, yet she was seen. Authority extended over death itself. The command to rise was spoken, and life returned immediately. What had already been accepted as final was reversed. The procession had begun, yet the outcome changed. Restoration was complete. The son was not only raised, he was returned to his mother. The moment was public. Many witnessed it, and the result could not be hidden. The report of what had taken place spread throughout the region. It would soon reach a man who had spoken with certainty about what was coming, a man now waiting in confinement, hearing these accounts from a distance. On the road outside Nain, what had been carried out in grief was brought back in life. The moment did not begin with a request. It began with compassion, and it was completed by authority. Death made its claim, but it did not keep it. Just ask the widow of Nain.